Good morning, and we welcome you to our talk show this morning, the Cindy Russell Show. Our topic, the transforming power of God, and we say good morning to Minister Kevin Ella Ewing, my guest.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I was saying a little earlier that this particular show is going to talk about the power of God to change lives. We see that so much in the Word of God. So many popular characters who had lives just like us.
Right.
I think the only thing they didn't have the only things they didn't have would probably be cell phones and vehicles.
Right. Right.
But they were people just like us, and in fact we have them as examples and are repeating some of the things that we've seen in the Bible,
Right.
or that we've learned about them in the Bible.
Right.
So where would you want to begin?
From the beginning.
From the beginning. Okay.
I want to begin from the beginning. And the beginning for me would be, I just want to read a passage of scripture because this is going to become the premises on which I'm going to speak from. Today I'm going to talk about my testimony. I'm going to talk about how did I ended up where I am right now as far as spiritual stuff is concerned, as far as God is concerned, as far as the things that I write about, the things that I teach about, what brought me up. Because I can tell you this, it wasn't something that I volunteered to do. I truly believe that it was God's plan for my life. However, what I'm going to talk about today is the mechanics as to how I would have arrived at this point. So the scripture that I want us to look at this morning is 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 14. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 14. And it says in the King James Version that it says, "But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him." I want you to circle that word. It says, "Neither can he know them or recognize them, because these things that are of God are spiritually discerned." Okay? Verse 15 says, "But he that is spiritual." Now he's still talking about the natural man, but he's talking about a man that has now been transformed. And in this case, he's not led by his flesh, which is his former man, but since his transformation, he's led by the Spirit of God, and he makes his assessment originally or initially from a spiritual perspective. So basically, a man like myself and others who have been transformed, transformation doesn't necessarily mean a new change of clothing, being placed in a new position, but from a spiritual perspective, not only have you been reconciled with the Spirit of God, but you now, again, you're transformed spiritually to make your assessments spiritually. So it says in verse 15 of 1 Corinthians chapter 2, it says, "But he that is spiritual, this guy judges all things, yet he himself is judge of no man." So basically, what he's doing is he begins to discern. You know, on many of the shows that I've had, I'm always talking about the spiritual world consistently because that's where everything happens. That is where the Christian should make their assessments from, draw their conclusions from, and all this other stuff. So from the spiritual perspective, as it relates to the spiritual world, once a person has been transformed, he doesn't or she doesn't settle on the physical things that they see. For example, let's say they have a friend who like to tell lies. They don't see the friend as the liar per se. What they see as a spiritual person judging things spiritually, that this friend has a lying spirit. As a result of that, because they are spiritual, they don't condemn the friend. Instead, they pray against the spirit that's controlling, influencing, or enticing or luring the friend to be this consistent liar. So my story, I'm going to take you back to where it all began. And I'm not going to go all the way back, but I'm going to take you as far as my 20s, when I called myself man.
Okay.
Right? Now, as a child, though, I'll just briefly talk about my child. As a child, I always had spiritual experiences. And when I say that, I would hear voices, I would feel the presence of beings or whatever. And of course, you never told your parents and stuff these things because in the back of your mind, you know that they wouldn't believe you. So all throughout my life, I used to be hagged by spirits and all of these other things. And after a while, you become used to it in the sense that you don't become fearful anymore because it happens so much.
Now, when you say hagged, what would that?
Okay, yeah.
Give me an example of an experience.
Being high, and a lot of people could relate to this. You're in bed, and you're awake. You're fully conscious, but you feel as if there's something holding you down in the bed, or something that have you pinned down, or something that is heavy upon you, and you cannot move. If the television is on, you could hear it. You could, if someone is lying next to you, you could probably see them. You're trying to speak, you're trying to scream, you're trying to talk, but there's no voice. You're being pinned down by this unseen force. I've had that on numerous occasions. Of course, back then I was ignorant to these things. I didn't know what they mean. As I get older, finished school, I left home, got my own place, and everything was going fine for me. I got my job, and in fact, this year I would make 30 years I was on my job. And everything was going fine. I was saving my money. I had bought me a nice little convertible car. I had a nice motorcycle. So you couldn't tell me I was on top of the world, you know. Had my nice little clothes, and, you know, I was a good saver. I saved my money.
Are you talking about a velvet purple jacket?
Yeah, well, no, that's later on. That's when God grabbed a hold of me. But, yeah, man, I was saving my money. In fact, at that time, I'd say about this 1994. So I was 24 at the time. And again, I was very, very balanced, very responsible, right? At that time, I had like about a little over $10,000 on my account. Yeah, I was saving my money, spending it wisely, paying my bills. Again, everything was fine. Every weekend, myself and a group of guys would go riding up.
24-year-old.
No, go riding and everything. I bought my car cash and I bought my motorcycle cash because I saved my money. Anyway, during that time, I had met this lady who I really, really liked a lot. I was single at the time when I met her, and things went well. You know, the things that you do when you meet someone. You call them on the phone, talk for 900 hours. You sleepy, but you won't hang up the phone, and all that regular stuff for 20-something-year-old go through. I went through that, and I'm going to be very candid on this show. Several months later, I met another lady. Now, initially, it wasn't about me starting no relationship with this lady, but it ended up that way. And I noticed, though, when I got involved, now remember, I still have my original relationship, right? And I ended up.
You mean your main girl,
right,
main relationship?
Right, my main relationship. Just trying to dress it up a little bit, but anyway.
Well, I'm a girl, so I'll tell you what I'll tell you straight.
So I told this lady that I had someone, you know, and it was fine with them, but we all know better than that. But here is where things become a little hairy. The second girl we're talking about now, I noticed while I was with her, some strange things began to happen in my life. For example, I was totally, completely turned off from my main girlfriend. Like, I wanted nothing to do. And it was so strange because it wasn't something that happened over a period of time. It's just like I literally detested her. I didn't want nothing to do. The mere fact of her probably saying, Kevin, I love you or whatever was just sickening to me. So I had no desire for her, period. So eventually it came out that I was seeing this other girl. She had questioned me about it several times. I denied it. I finally came out and said, listen, this is what it is, and take it or leave it. And I just had this careless attitude, but I was never this way.
And like you didn't really care about hurting her?
I didn't care. And that was because I really, really loved her. But anyway,
that's really cold.
It's very cold. Anyway, the girl that I ended up with, like I say, things began to go crazy, starting off with that. And the other things that began to happen, I was unable to focus. And that became very apparent in the beginning. I couldn't focus. I couldn't stay stable in my thought life. And as a result of that, I became confused, frustrated. But all of this since I met this lady. The next thing that happened, it was difficult for me to save my money like I used to. Because normally when I get paid, I would pay my tithe and put up the rest of my money and just take out a portion and after then pay my bills for me to have to enjoy myself.
And as this is going on, the relationship is growing? Are you like in love with her? You're falling in like crazy over her?
The thing about it, it wasn't, in hindsight, it wasn't love. What it was almost as if something was making me love this woman, and it wasn't my own free will.
But it wasn't the love that you felt for the other.
No,
the
there was
first-
nowhere near
Right.
that. And that's why I became so confused about it, because even though it was nowhere near what I had originally, the reality is I didn't want the first one, even though I knew I loved the first one. So anyway, what further went on, like I said, I couldn't save my money. I was always going to the bank, withdrawing money, but never putting the monies back. As a result of that, of course, my funds would begin to dwindle. Next thing began to happen, I took on a state of depression. I became extremely depressed, almost as if someone had a coat of depression on me. Now, the weird thing about all of this, all of these things are happening, but it's like a baton is being passed on. It went from my confusion to my finances to my emotional state to all of these things are coming, but they're coming in sequence. But again, I was smart enough to know that they're happening ever since I met this lady. All right? So anyway, the next stage that I took on, I became extremely jealous, Cindy. Cindy, I tell you, I was literally holding on to my sanity by my fingernails, because the way that this was happening, it wasn't making any sense, and there was no one that I could have talked to about it, because I know they wouldn't believe me.
Explain extremely jealous.
Extremely jealous in that, okay, I'm now dating this girl. Now, when I started to date her, and even when I had ended my previous relationship, everything was fine. I was the regular person. You know, she go away, I go my way. You know, whenever we see each other again, we fine. You know, it's a regular relationship. There's nothing to be over anxious about or whatever. But with me, it's like I had to know where she was. I had to call her where you are, and I was never, ever, ever this way. It's almost as if I became addicted to her, and it just didn't make no sense. And why it didn't make no sense is because I couldn't understand why this was happening to me.
And you weren't in love like
I
that.
wasn't in love with her. Now, what I also note in hindsight was that while I was becoming more emotionally attached, and I mean, strangely, she became more detached. Right. So she made it look like, you know, why you on my case all the time? But it was never this way. So anyway, the times I would get home, and I would be in that house, sitting there would close, because the curtains that I had like a sheer curtain, and then the thicker curtain that I would close. And when I come home from work, I would literally be in there in the darkness, literally crying for no reason. My depression grew worse
Was
and
there
worse.
something going on?
There was absolutely nothing
What were
going
you
on.
crying for?
I don't know. I was just sitting there. I remember I had a little toolbox, because back then I did a course at BTVI, air conditioning and refrigeration. Passed the course with honors, top of the class, all of this stuff. There was a toolbox that I had in my kitchen I literally sit on when I get home in the dark. And suddenly I would just sit there, and it was like the thoughts would just traffic through my mind like nobody's business. Negative thoughts, failure. Right now she out there with someone. She don't want you. I mean, it's like I had no control. What I would do is get up from there and actually go to one of the windows, look outside. I had no interest. My best friend at the time, Clifford Book, we still best friends today. And, you know, Clifford and his wife would come invite him. Okay, why don't you come out, man? You know, they having this and you having that. I say, I ain't coming, man. My motorcycle would be there in the yard, my car. I had zero interest. I lost interest for everything. I went to my job because that is how I sustain myself, right? But when I got on the job, I was so detached, so despondent. And at the time, I'll never forget, this is how bad it got, Cindy. One time, at the time, because I was doing deliveries at the time on my job, one time I was so dazed driving that the light right there by Pioneers Way was on red. And I rode through that light as if it was green. And of course, you hear the people cussing, blah, 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 but that didn't mean nothing to me. It's like I was in a whole new different world. I had no control literally over my thoughts. My thoughts were the most dominant events of those times that I could really think of, that literally governed. It's almost as if there was an army of voices just speaking to me, and whatever they were saying was never positive. Anyway, going back to this lady, she now began more. She became more bold in the things that she did. I wouldn't see her for days, and when I do ask her about it, like she would take on this attitude, man, I ain't your wife and blah blah blah, and this would even make me more angry. So I went from that jealousy stage to an angry stage, very very angry. And the truth is, I really had no real reason to be angry. But at the end of the day, when I sit to myself again, I would break down in tears because to me, I'm like, Lord, what is happening to me? This make absolutely no sense. So we would stay in arguments and arguing and rowing and not speak for days. And when I don't hear from her, man, I call on her every minute like a real nutcase.
And cell phones were not available then.
They ain't had no cell phone, but that line, I work it like a cell phone. So, man, I was like, man, there's something ain't right here. This don't make no sense. So anyway, my mother would come down. She would come down every, like, once or twice a week to come see how I doing. And she'd always bring food and so on. I had lost tremendous weight because I wasn't eating. I was... my next stage is after the anger and so on, I begin to develop anxiety and panic attacks. I would literally feel my heart palpitating, vigorously. Now I had nothing, there was nothing to be fearful of. I became extremely fearful, extremely. I would always overthink things. Again, all of this is happening since I met this lady. So anyway, my mother would talk to me and say, boy, what happened to you losing all this weight? You got this place all closed. You crazy, eh? So she would open up the curtains and everything. And what she would say to me was like speaking Spanish to someone who only understand English. I wasn't hearing her. Not being rude to her, My mind was so far gone that even though she's trying to encourage me, whatever, I wasn't hearing her.
So this is going on for months
This was going on for about 2-3 months now. So she would bring the food there. I think one time she went in the fridge and saw all of the previous food that she brought all piled up in the fridge because I wasn't eating. I wasn't eating at all. I had no appetite. I had no focus. I was getting, if I got 2 hours sleep per night, that was incredible. Why? Because now what is happening began to upgrade itself. I would literally hear voices speak to me. When you see nightfall, my home became like a horror house, Cindy. I would feel, like I said, remember the hiking? Man, that it got worse. I would literally feel this presence because only me lived where I lived. I was the only person living in it. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And only me lived there. And I would live, when nightfall, I dread nights because I know sleep is a fantasy. I would know there were times that I would like doze off and I would hear like this, like something shout at me and pitch me out of my sleep. And what I realized too, this was increasing not only my frustration, but my panic and anxiety attacks. So I would be up all night, couldn't go sleep for nothing in the world. I said, Lord, what is this? What's happening to me? Now I came from a Christian background, both grandmothers I was raised with. So I knew how to pray and so on. But back then I was so frustrated that I would start praying and just start mumbling a bunch of stuff. Just going off with all, I was just totally off. It just wasn't making no sense. So my bedroom became the center of it all. When I came in from work, I would, like I said, go straight in the kitchen, sit down on that toolbox, and just begin to cry for no reason. Ain't nobody do me nothing. Finally get up.
I don't mean to use this word, but that is extremely weird.
Yeah, extremely weird.
Wow.
Finally get up, might take a bath. As soon as I put foot in that master bedroom, the minute I put foot in that master bedroom, Cindy, and I lay in that bed, Cindy, honest to God, I would literally feel this evil presence come in the room. I would feel, it was almost as if, like how I was laying in the bed on my stomach, I would feel that presence come around me. And literally, just like how you're speaking to me right now, I would hear this voice call my name. So it got so bad, I stopped sleeping in the room and started to sleep in the couch area in the front room. That didn't change anything. I would watch my curtains fly up, and I would hear things, the pots and the pans moving. Only me live in this house.
Now you're doing well because
Most
I would
people
not stay there.
But that's
you
just
remind me of people in the movies,
Uh-huh.
like when you're the only person
Right,
in your little apartment,
right,
and you hear something in the bedroom,
Right.
and you go, who is it?
right. Like,
Is anyone there? I said, answer me. Who's there?
But see,
God.
I was confined. A part of what was on me had me confined there. Because I tell you, when weekends come, and Clifford could tell you, I did, you know how many times they invited me out, I wouldn't go nowhere, not because I wanted to be home, but it's like something had me there, and I could not move. When I say I couldn't move, not that I couldn't move physically, but my desire to go elsewhere, whatever was on me was right there, and it had me shackled right there. So anyway, all kind of stuff began to go bad in my life. My job, my poison, I mean, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. One day, Mommy told me, she said, Kevin, there's a lady up the road. She's a Christian woman. Why don't you let this woman pray for you? I said, Mommy, I ain't letting no wicked people pray for me, man. And I was so depressed. So like a couple of days after she told me this, I was at work. I was on break. Sitting there, I was so depressed. I feel I couldn't go on no more. And like I tell you, I used to have these evil thoughts running inside of my mind, inside out.
And
so I
people
said, you know
who are
what?
not Christians normally like to call Christian people
Right.
wicked.
Right, right.
Why?
I don't know. So what I did, I finally decided to go to this lady. She lived right up the street from me. So I went there, knocked on the door, and she asked who it was. I said, my name is Kevin, I'm your neighbor. I said, someone told me that you pray for people. I would know if you could pray for me. So I started looking through a window, must to make sure I know rob or whatever, right? But of course I was dressed in my uniform and everything, so she opened the door. And as soon as she opened the door, she slanted her head and she looked at me. She said, I don't like what I see. So my heart began to palpitate again. This anxiety attack now coming because I figured there's something bad. But what she was about to tell me couldn't be further from reality as far as I'm concerned. So when I sat down, she said, young man, she said, what's the word she used now? She didn't say they're doing a number on you. Sure, she said they have you tie up. So I said, what you mean they have me tie up? I ain't no rope on. Maybe you mean tie up. I couldn't get that. Now, what she's about to do, because from this point forward, the terminologies that she's going to use have everything to do with witchcraft. But I didn't know this. I didn't believe in that stuff. I'm, 20-something years old? I don't care about that. So she said, there's a lady that you are dating. And the lady and her mother is working against you. That's the word she also used. So I said, what you mean working against me? That don't make no sense. She said, they're working witchcraft against you. So I'll never forget, I was sitting on the couch, I sucked my teeth because I'm saying to myself, I came here for some form of relief. Tell me, but Jesus, man, you know, to put some oil on me, you know, give me some miracle juice to drink, something to take this feeling off me, something, man. That's, you know, at this point where I'm ignorant of these things, I would welcome anything at this point. So she said, young man, listen to me carefully. She said, what they're doing to you, she said, is going to cause you, or this she said it's going to cause you to kill yourself. Now, when she said that, it caught my attention because, like I told you, I was battling depression so terribly. My life felt like such a failure that I actually was contemplating suicide. But not to the extent where I would get the rope or the thoughts became more and more aggressive. Right. That's the way I should put it. So I'm sitting down, very attentive at this point.
You're just thinking it wouldn't be so bad.
Right. So I'm sitting down, very attentive. So she said, yeah. So she said to me, she said, do you own your own home? I said, well, no, I don't own my own home. I said, it's my mother's home. I said, and, you know, we're trying to work out something where I could purchase the home from her. So she said, oh, okay, I see what it makes sense. She said, what they want you to do is they want you to marry this girl. And what they have on you, you will kill yourself and they would get your home. I say, what? Now, at this point, it was kind of far-fetched for me. Then she looked at me and she pulled back. And she said to me, she said, young man, she said, let me tell you something here. She says, even though the mother and daughter is working against you, the mother is undermining the daughter.
The daughter doesn't really want to do it.
So I'm like, no, she didn't put it that way. She's saying that even though she's giving the daughter stuff to bring to the house, whatever, what the daughter don't know is the mother's now working against, well, not really against her, but at the end of the day, both of us are going to be off the scene and the mother's going to get displaced.
Oh.
So watch what she says next.
Really?
Right. So she says to me, so I said, what do you mean by she's undermining the daughter? She said, the way she saw it, and she's speaking prophetically, she says, one of two scenarios are going to happen, Mr. Ewing. She says, either you're going to kill yourself or you're going to kill this girl and then kill yourself. Now, what this woman did not know, Cindy, was that I was fighting in my mind. I tell you, Cindy, just what she was saying, the thoughts were relentless. No matter how I try to switch my mind from these things that would come over and over repeatedly, all the jealousy and rage, all of these things would come up in my mind. I would begin thinking stuff that didn't even exist. Right now, she'll deal with another man making a fool of me. And that's why when I hear stuff about people committing suicide, Cindy, trust me, if you are spiritually ignorant, you will never ever understand these things. And I thank God daily for my experiences, even though they were arduous, but it forced me to look at life from a different perspective. And it showed me that things happen spiritually prior to them happening physically. That's witchcraft. Witchcraft is a person fighting you in the spirit. And if you're ignorant to it, you're looking at physical things to justify the physical things that are happening to you, not knowing that the physical things that are happening to you are as an end result or a conclusion of the things that have happened spiritually first. So anyway, she said to me how the mother's undermining the daughter. She says, young man, you're not in a good position. So at this point, Cindy, I'm sitting down, very confused, because in my twisted mind, I love this girl, and she would not do nothing like this to me. So here's what the lady said to me next. And this is how I know I couldn't doubt her no more. The woman was telling me this. She said, tell me something. She said, the lady who you're involved with, she said, y'all not together right now. Y'all separated. Now, she would have never noticed because we had just broken up, 2 days prior. I said, no, we're not together. She said, I know.
Was the breaking up repetitive? Like you
listen,
get together,
every week, every other week, this how I tell you things were escalating. So she said, where's the lady right now? I said, she's right in Freeport. So she said, she's not in Freeport. She said, that lady right now is in Nassau. And she has your pants, she has your shirt, and she was instructed to take it to the Obeah. This was the word she told me, the Obeah. She said she's going to come back to Freeport and try to make things right with you. But the only reason why she's going to do it is because she want to get these clothing back into your home. And she said the day that you put those clothes on is all over for you. Cindy, at this point, even though the lady had told me a lot of stuff that was correct, my mind could not wrap around the final things that she said, which is what I just said. And the reason why is because I'm saying in my naive mind, people are not that wicked. People would never, you would have to do something to someone in order for that to happen. That is what I was saying in my mind. So in my mind, I was trying to justify her actions by saying these things are incorrect, they're not true. Well, watch this. 2 days later, Cindy, 2 days later, God is my witness. I'm leaving my home. I think I was going to pick up something from someone. And the lady pulls up in the front of my yard. I have a wall in front there. She comes to the car, hi, baby, like nothing ever happened. Just like how the woman told me. So
and like it was over. You had broken up.
No, but that's what I'm saying. We weren't speaking. We had broken up, but now she's coming as if like nothing happened, right? So she said, "No, baby, yeah, all the stuff, right?"
She missed you.
So of course I wasn't a Christian then, so I was using some words that wouldn't be too found in the Christian community at all. And I began to riddle everything that the woman told me. But to be honest with you, I didn't expect nothing. I just wanted to argue, so I just threw that out there. This was the part that got me. This only could have been Jesus Christ working in this situation. She looked at me in complete, I could picture her face right now. Her eyes literally popped open. And she began to admit everything that I told her. But she was blaming it on the mother. She said how the mother gave her stuff in this turpentine bottle to pour in the four corners of my room, the master room, and the other areas of the home, but mainly in the master room where there was also a closet and everything. So she said, I just did it to protect us from so I said, okay, if you were trying to protect me or us, why not tell me? This is my home. Why not say, Kevin? Okay, just like if you say, Kevin, I bring in the security lock to put on your door so nobody don't break in. You can tell me, right? So why not tell me these things? I didn't want blah, blah. I say, because you're lying. But she did something next that, again, only God Almighty. This is God's teaching me in all of this. And of course, I only see this in hindsight now. She got very silent. She took her keys. She walked to the rear of her vehicle. She popped the back trunk, and laying off in that back seat, Cindy, was my jeans, denim pants, and my collarless shirt, just like the woman told me. Cindy, at that
And
point,
you didn't put them there.
I didn't know. She told me. She explained to me. She did come back from Nassau. She told me what she did. She told me all of this was on the advice of her mother. So I said, well, why would you do this to me? What have I done to you? I didn't beat you up. I didn't shoot you. I didn't accuse you. What would make you do this? And this is when I begin to see the epitome of evil. This was my mind.
This was supposed to be love.
This was supposed to be my girlfriend. So I couldn't understand that. So anyway.
And maybe wifey.
Right. What I did, I didn't move it. I said, let's ride out to the beach. And again, this only could have been God, because no, I wouldn't have done this. I had me some lighter fluid,
Right.
the barbecue thing. And I remember riding out to the beach. I got the stick, and I took the pants and the shirt out, and I put it with some bush was, and I literally burned it. I did that, Cindy, but let me tell you something, yeah? When I tell you life got 10 times worse for me.
Worse.
It got 10 times worse. And let me tell you why.
And you didn't really know that you should burn.
No, that's what I'm telling you now. I had
just
no
did it.
knowledge. And it just goes to show you that even in your sinful, unrepentant state, God, who already knows your end from the beginning, is still working for you in spite of. Because he know you can turn around. He know you're going to transform. He know you're going to be that change agent for others.
Transform.
So anyway, we did that. And I'm still trying to question why you did this. So anyway, like I said, things got worse. And 2 weeks later, this was now 1996, during that time. 1995, sorry. They were having graduation. The prom stuff, I'll never forget that. I had a nice little convertible car. I washed that car the whole day, cleaned it up. And I was just so depressed. I rode all the way to West End. Then I came back up. I rode to East End. Pulled my car back. This is how depressed I was.
I don't know
And I'm trying to figure out, Lord, why. And I remember coming home. This was
totally east and then totally
yeah,
west.
man. That's how depressed
West
I
and
was.
east.
So after all of that, I remember passing. I ran right by Xanadu. They were having a prom thing there. You know, they used to have the barricades and people putting up their car and that. And I pulled up home. This was May 17. Never forget it. May 17, 1996. I came into my home. I threw my keys on the little shelf there, locked the door, sat on the couch. And I began the depression come on me again. And it came on like 30 times worse. So I turned on the television as just some relief, just to hear something to kind of occupy my thoughts or to fight the thoughts that were relentless in my mind. And the TV turned to TBN. So I turned, I said, man, I hear these money hogs, man. I tired of these, because I was bitter, angry, man. So for some reason, I was compelled to turn the television back. And I turned the television back. And this guy was preaching, Cindy. I don't know him from Adam. Maybe I'll meet him in glory one day. He said, there's a young man sitting on a couch right now. You are depressed. You are emotionally distraught. Cindy, the only thing this man didn't do was call my name. He said, God is reaching out to you to change your life. Cindy, I don't know who he was. All I know is I crawled out of the couch, got on my knees, and I began to weep and cry and snotty up my nose. And I said, Lord, please forgive me. Please forgive me. I repent. Everything that I've done in the past, all the evil, the lies, and I just began to bawl. I said, Lord, I am for real. Now, there was this lady, her name is Miss Edna Neely. I don't know if you know her. She have the little food thing there by the post office. Not the post office, the Random Memorial Hospital. She sell the little food by the emergency center. She have a little van thing. Anyway, she used to work at Abraham. She always used to invite me to their church. It was called Grandmama Christian Center on Queens Highway. Bishop Cardinal McIntosh was the pastor. And I used to tell her, yeah, I come. But I said in my prayer to the Lord, confessing my sins and repenting, I said, Lord, I will, to prove to you I'm for real this time, I said, Sunday I'm going to go to church. And I haven't been to church for years prior to that. And I'm going to make a public confession of this. So this
So
was the
why you never
purpose.
went to church all those years?
I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in church. I was living at the top of my life and everything was going well, and I just didn't go. I didn't hate God, but it just that wasn't my priority. So anyway, that following Sunday, I went in my closet. This is where the purple suit came in.
Okay.
And man, listen, I couldn't find nothing to fit me. So I said, you know what, I don't care. I had this little purple double breast jacket and a black pants.
I wish you'd kept it.
So I put it on, man. And man, I tell you, this thing was so tight, Cindy. Honestly, you could take my blood pressure in this tight jacket. But I didn't care. Because at this point, I mean business, man. I finished with that nonsense. So I went to Bishop Cardinal McIntosh Church. And this is amazing. Because guess what? The lady who I tell you did this stuff with me, to me, she was with me.
At church?
I brought her with me. So anyway, Bishop Cardinal McIntosh had this couple, husband and wife, pastor team from America. And the guy, after the praise and worship and everything, they called him up. So the husband and wife was about to minister, but the husband paused. And the husband said, the Spirit of the Lord is speaking to me. He said, there's a young man in here. I don't know who you are, sir. He said, there's a young man in here. He said, your life is saturated with witchcraft. He said, you can't go walk. Man, the only thing this man didn't do was call my name. Cindy, I was sitting like 3 rows from the front. And listen, you think those fellas who's run the Olympics good at jumping hurdles? Listen, I jump over there. Listen, it was almost as if they beamed me up. And Cindy, I got up there. And man, he began to pray for me because everything he said was related to what the woman told me. And the same girl, because mind you, this fix still on me, even though I am a Christian, that's why I say to you all the time, if the covenants of those things haven't been broken, you could be a man or woman of God and still saddled with covenants that were made against your life that needs to be destroyed by fire.
I understand.
So anyway, he called me up and he began to prophesy. At the time, she would not move. She's sitting down with her head down in the bed because she knows she's guilty. But even in my twisted mind, I'm thinking I still could make this work. She didn't really want to do it. This is what witchcraft do to you. It lock your brain down in a defeated, unsuccessful way with repetitive, negative, non-producing thoughts.
You would be bewitched.
Big time. So anyway, he prophesied. I kind of jump ahead of myself. Sorry, the first time I went, Pastor Cardinal McIntosh, this guy came the second Sunday. Yeah, the first time I went, Bishop McIntosh was preaching. And really, I wasn't listening to what he was preaching. I just wanted to do the altar call. This is the first time I went. Sorry, I went ahead of myself. And when he called the altar call, I rushed up there. And they took us through the sinner's prayer. And I fulfilled my promise to the Lord that I would do it publicly, and I did. And I was crying. I mean, they had to pass me some tissue and so on. I was crying, but I felt a little load lifted. The second week I went was when I took her, and I tell you the early incident that I explained. Cindy, this is now, remember I told you my life got worse after I found the clothing? Well, multiplied it by 3,000 now. Now, why is this happening? And this is why I do these teachings. You know, a lot of people don't know my story. And that's why they would say, he always talking about witchcraft. He always talking about the spiritual realm. Why don't he talk about blessings and favor and grace and healing? Well, I do. I just take it from a spiritual perspective. And I speak 90%, 99%, I would say the things that I write, the things that I teach on, I lived it. And I'm just giving you surface. I wouldn't even go into details of what I went through. So anyway, after I received Christ as my Savior, all hell break loose in me. Cindy, those forces I was telling you about before in the home, I now begin to see demonic manifestation in my home. You hear me? I now begin to hear voices, different language. I mean, when I tell you, now why is this happening though? In hindsight, it's happening now because the covenants that were made, the altars that were raised against me via witchcraft from these people, they're now being challenged. Remember, I'm a Christian now. But even though they're being challenged, I'm ignorant to altars, to covenant, to evil voices, to sacrifice. I'm ignorant to these things. So what am I doing? I'm doing what the average Christian does. I'm praying. Father God, deliver me from this. Father God, turn it around. Not realizing that because it's a covenant against my life, I need to focus and ask God to break the evil covenants and incantations that has been spoken against me, the evil voice of failure, damnation, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, for depression. See, these are the things, these are the spirits that has been sent to my life to torment me because I was never that way before. I didn't know none of this. So the first few years of my Christian life, even though I was a Christian, I was suffering more than when I was a sinner. And this was only happening, not that the power of God is less than the power of darkness, but like the Bible said, and this is always my keynote verse, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. So I was going to church, did all of that. I paid my tithe. I prayed, I fasted, I did all of those things, but I never knew about evil covenants. So the pastor would preach, but nothing remotely close to what I was dealing with. So they would never talk, you would never, the only time you hear about the Spirit was the Holy Spirit. Or I feel the Spirit of the Lord in this place, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. And to me, in hindsight now, based on the knowledge that I have now, those were all cosmetics. And when I say they were cosmetics, that's like you putting makeup on. Behind you, that makeup is a reality. And you can't just push that away. So I realized at that time what I was dealing with, A, the church wasn't prepared for, and mainly because there were no teachings about it. So if I were to tell a pastor or someone these things, they would kind of brush it off or be like, you just got to pray and and so on, because they were ignorant to these things. And I'm saying this because there are people listening to me right now. They're probably crying right now because you know what they're probably saying? What this man talking about, this is the exact thing, either what I've been through or presently going through. And I never wanted to tell nobody this because I know they wouldn't believe me. Thank God somebody actually speaking out on this. So what it did for me though, I don't fault the pastors back then or who because I realized this was God. He has me now in boot camp. He's teaching me. He's teaching me through the practical aspect of it and also the theory. Because remember I told you, I never liked reading. I hated reading with the only books that I read, and I told you this, not even read them, is the naked girl in the pictures. And don't ever approach me with no book, especially if that book looked thick. But for some reason, when I became a Christian, I had the anointing to read. And I remember a good friend of mine, she worked at Customs at the time. She was married, and her and her husband were good friends. And I remember she was recommending this book to me called He Came to Set the Captives Free by Rebecca Brown. And I went and I bought the book. I finished that book in 2 days. This was unprecedented by any standard in my life. The book began to open my eyes, and I began to see things like never before. Anyway, many things began to happen. Many things. Now, I still didn't officially break it off with this girl at that time. So I remember one night she came there. And again, I'm a new Christian. I'm not perfect. So I still was doing things I shouldn't have been doing. Fornicating and so on. But I would repent. But I never felt satisfied. I'll never forget one night. Never forget this. Because she would just come by and leave very quickly. One night she came by.
Come by and do what?
Just talk or whatever, just leave. Anyway, one night she came there very late. So I went down in the room. She came there. We were talking. I fell asleep. And I got up. She was still there. My bathroom light was on. And she was laying in the bed just like this with her hand underneath her face.
Looking at you?
Looking at me. And she was wearing this chain. This silver chain with a funny emblem on it. So I said, why are you wearing this? Because you told me your neck becomes irritated if you wear any form of jewelry. And that's why I never bought any. So I said, this is something mommy give me. I just wear it just so mommy don't make no noise. So anyway, I didn't think nothing of it. The next day, she had it on again when she came there. I thought that's strange. Anyway, at this point, even though I'm trying to hold on to her, I know the Lord was severing me because the way I used to feel, the jealousy and stuff, all I began was kind of wearing down, just a little. Remember I told you about Rebecca Brown, right? After I read that book, Rebecca Brown had another book. It was called Prepare for War. Right. I read a whole series, Prepare for War, A Vessel of Honor, Unbroken Curses. It was Prepare for War, that really put it on me. In Prepare for War, she was reiterating the story that was told to her by Elaine. Elaine was the person, who won these demonic attacks. And she was saying that if they ever sent a curse at someone, or was placing a curse on someone, And the one who was placing the curse actually lived in the same residence, building, home, or room of this person, that there are certain items that they would have to wear so that the spirits that they're sending at them don't attack them also.
Oh.
So while I'm reading, it says turn to figure, let's say 1.2. Cindy, when I flip that page,
No.
the exact identical chain and the emblem that lady was wearing,
Pendant?
the pendant, whatever, was exactly what I saw in the book.
Exactly.
Exact same thing, Cindy. All this time, my mind began to, because there's so much that was coming at me, it was difficult to digest this stuff. So at this point now, remember I told you I love reading. So anyone who used to come by my house, I started off with a black Bible. I had a Bible that was bought for me by her, by the same girl who was doing it.
She bought your Bible too?
She should have bought herself one too. But anyway, so what I did, I was to read my Bible every day, along with these supplementary books. So I went from this one Bible, and like my mommy Clifford, anyone could tell you, my dining room table became filled with books. I would go into the library and sit down on weekends. All the books on witchcraft. So like I just became so attracted to that. But I would read them according to the scriptures, meaning like, for example, remember the story about when Moses went to Pharaoh to set the people free, and he threw his staff on the ground and became a snake. And it says that Pharaoh sent for his magicians, wise men, and all of these. They were all sorcerers, witchcraft workers, who replicated the exact miracle. I began to read and study. I would be up till daybreak, Cindy, reading and reading and reading. I'm home at this time. When weekend come, when I don't have work, I would go to the library or I'd borrow a book on these things and read and literally begin to saturate myself with this knowledge. So what happens now? That's why the Bible says you perish for lack of knowledge. But as you begin to attain more knowledge of the spiritual realm, the more the manipulation of the spiritual realm from the kingdom of darkness begin to intensify. So
Is it also, because that came to me this week because of a situation where you're praying, you're fasting, you're doing everything, and then it's like the bad stuff starts to intensify.
Right.
Is it that it knows it's coming?
No.
It's going to be removed?
No. What is happening here is that the covenant would give these spirits that are working against you the right to work against you is being challenged. See, when listen, you will never understand the spiritual world unless you understand covenants. Covenants is what makes everything from that spiritual world, whether good or bad, manifest in this world. Outside, that's why whenever a person go to the kingdom Satan to work obeah, voodoo, witchcraft, they don't realize this, but whatever they are required to do or give to the practitioners, the witch, the warlock, the wizard, they are being tied to what they call their altar where the covenant is made. An altar is a place where spirits meet humanity, me and you. At this altar, sacrifices are made. The sacrifice is what sealed the covenant between what the practitioner wants the spirit to do. For example, they say, we don't want Kevin to prosper. We want a spirit of poverty against his life, a spirit of torment, insanity, depression. This is what we want to send. So the spirit now will tell the practitioner, this is the obeah man or woman, okay, tell Kevin, go to the beach and get a gallon of seawater. Go to the liquor store, get a Bacardi or whatever. Go get 3 eggs. Go get some graveyard. Now, the reality is, these things that they're asking you to get, they mean nothing. The mere fact that you're going to get it is what you call an agreement. You are agreeing to the request of what the spirits say. Now, you think it's just the obeah man telling you this, but he is receiving his directives from the altar, from the spirits. Once you would have participated and done that, unknowing to you, you are now tied to the altar. So this woman and her ma, they're at the altar with Kevin picture or Kevin hair or Kevin fingernail clipping or Kevin underwear or clothing that he would have worn, which still have his DNA. Because these items now causes the spirits that they're calling against him to recognize him and they would now know his geographical location to go and torment him. Why? Because spirits are not omnipresent like God. They cannot be anywhere, anytime, all the time. So they need identifiers to identify you spiritually. In a case where they cannot find these things or these personal items of you, what they would have to do now is whatever the concoction is, and it could be visible or invisible, they have to now put it in a path that you regularly walk or visit. Remember when we were growing up, you would hear, boy, I hear Susie walk on something, and ever since she walked on that, that was it. Well, this is what they mean. See, because remember, there has to be an agreement. So when your foot or body or whatever contact with whatever they put down for you, that sealed the agreement. This is who we want. This is what the attack is going to be on. So when a person go to the obey poison field, there's a specific attack. There's no random attack. They come together and they agree. We agree with this spirit behind the altar that Kevin will not succeed. We send a jealous spirit. We send a spirit of frustration and anger. We send a spirit of defeat. Now, you don't see these things, but you can feel them. And you can watch your life begin to go. Remember, this ain't you. This is the spirits upon you. But the spirits are speaking not to you physically, you know. They're speaking to your spirit. So what does this mean? So every altar where spirits, where humanity meets divinity, where sacrifices are made, this is the main purpose of those evil altars. It is to change the destiny of the victim. So what they're doing now is they're literally rerouting your life. So your life is now reprogrammed for failure, reprogrammed for defeat, reprogrammed for anxiety and panic attacks, reprogrammed for suicide. We come in agreement that he will kill himself, that he will turn on himself. So when you watch the news and you hear Kevin hang himself, you say, my God, what a boy. I know that boy all my life. That's a decent young man, sensible boy. Not knowing the spirits was tormenting him to do that.
Okay. I have another question to ask after the break when we come back, as it relates to that with the spirits acting up and what it means.
Right.
We'll expand on that a little bit more. And so we invite you to stay tuned and stay with us.